What's up, Vault Dwellers? Dan here. Hammer Films, they didn't just make horror movies. They reinvented what horror could be. This little British studio, they took Universal's dusty monsters and they made them bleed in Technicolor. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, bright red blood on screen for the first time. Sex appeal mixed with gothic terror. So I've ranked 62 Hammer horror films. Every Dracula, every Frankenstein, the Quatermass pictures, and even the lesbian vampires. All of it. This took months, and some of you watched the 3-part series and had a lot to say in the comments, and I listened. I've added one film that was missing from the original ranking based on popular demand, and I've even adjusted a few placements based on your feedback and some passionate arguments that made me reconsider. This is the definitive cut. My ranking, it's based on impact, rewatchability, and what these films still deliver after all these years. The full list, it's in the description. Let's dig up some graves. We're starting at the bottom with the Lady Vanishes, which is barely a Hammer film at all. This is a remake of the Hitchcock 1938 classic.
Excuse me. The lady who was sitting there, the English lady, do you know where she went?
There has been no English lady here.
Excuse me?
And look, I just absolutely love Sybil Shepherd, but this movie just does not work. It was Hammer's last theatrical release before they went dormant, and you can feel the studio just desperately trying to be something they weren't. There's no horror, no gothic atmosphere, just a competent but forgettable thriller that could have been made by anyone. It's a Hammer film in name only, and watching it feels like saying goodbye to an old friend who's already checked out. The saddest part, you can see them trying, but the magic, it was already gone.
Now look here, we have no intention at all of handing over Miss whatever her name is to you, so why don't you be a good chap, just clear off.
And we're going to talk about Hysteria, which is about an American in London with amnesia who gets caught up in a murder plot. I mean, it sounds promising, right? Freddie Francis, he's behind the camera, so this does look absolutely gorgeous. But this psychological thriller, it never quite finds its footing. It's one of those movies where you can see like all the pieces are there. You know, the twists, the paranoia, the shadowy London streets, but they never click together. Robert Weber does fine work in the lead, but the script, it just keeps tripping over itself.
You look as though you'd seen a ghost.
I think I've watched this about 3 times, just trying to figure out what exactly I'm missing.
Oh no, don't tell me I've fallen for this at my age.
And I'm just still not sure. I mean, it's not a bad movie, it's just, forgettable. And for Hammer, forgettable, it's the worst sin.
What is the matter?
Nothing, I just wanted to say goodbye.
The Horror of Frankenstein. This one just hurts. Jimmy Sangster, who wrote some of Hammer's greatest scripts, he tries to do like a comedic reboot.
You've put on weight in a couple of places.
Not too much, I hope, sir.
Not at all.
Of the Frankenstein series with Ralph Bates replacing Cushing. And David Prose, Darth Vader, he plays the monster who's wearing essentially a diaper and a bald cap. The tone is just all over the place. It's trying to be funny.
Poor selection. Very poor. Times are hard. People just aren't dying off so quick. It's the welfare state.
That's what it is.
It's trying to be scary. And even sexy all at once. Bates is actually pretty good as a smugger, younger Baron, but you just keep waiting for Peter Cushing to show up and restore order. Unfortunately, he never does. It's like Hammer trying to be hip for the 70s and just missing completely. It gets points for ambition, though.
How'd you do? I'm Victor Frankenstein.
We have one of my favorite Hammer movie titles, Lust for a Vampire. But it's not my favorite movie. It's the middle child of the Karnstein trilogy, and it shows. Ute Stensgaard takes over the Camilla role from Ingrid Pitt, and while she is beautiful, she just doesn't have that dangerous edge Pitt brought. The setting moves to a girls' finishing school, which, should be perfect hunting grounds for a lesbian vampire, but the script, it never really commits to the premise. The kills lack tension. The seduction lacks heat.
We'll go at midnight.
And just the whole thing feels rushed into production just to capitalize on the vampire lover's success, without understanding what made the film work. Ralph Bates, he shows up briefly before getting killed off, which feels like a total waste. Watch this for trilogy completeness only.
I only want to serve you. Please, I beg you, take me.
The movie Crescendo features Stephanie Powers, who plays a music student who visits a French villa to research a dead composer and discovers his family is deeply messed up. It's trying to be a psychological thriller, kind of in the vein of earlier Hammer shockers, but by 1970, this kind of story felt dated.
You need me, sir?
Get over here!
There is a heroin addiction subplot, and there's some incest implications, and James Olsen, he's doing his best tortured artist routine. The villa looks beautiful, and there are moments where you can see where they're going with this thing, but it just never commits to being truly disturbing or truly entertaining. It just kind of exists. It's a middle-of-the-road Hammer, but that's still completely watchable.
You must remember, my darling, it is I who you need. It is me who helps you.
Christopher Lee called To the Devil a Daughter the worst film he ever made for Hammer. And who am I to argue with this man? Based on the Dennis Wheatley novel, it's got Richard Widmark trying to save Nastassja Kinski from a satanic cult. The problem is, nothing really happens for most of the runtime. And when it does, it really doesn't make any sense. Lee, he looks embarrassed in this film. The ending is just famously awful. They literally ran out of money and just stopped filming. There's some creepy imagery involving a demonic birth, but it's wrapped in such a confused mess of a movie that it barely registers. Hammer's final horror film before the first hiatus, and it kind of went out with a whimper.
My element is fire.
There's the emblem of fire. Never betray us, Henry. If you betray us, the pact will be put to fire, and fire will kill you in that same instant.
Alright, here's the thing with this movie. I kinda love the legend of the 7 golden vampires just for existing.
But beneath the image, the immortal power of Count Dracula.
So Hammer, they team up with the Shaw brothers to make a vampire kung fu film. And Peter Cushing, he's Van Helsing, and he goes to China to fight the 7 golden masked vampires. And it's exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. Christopher Lee refused to appear as Dracula because even he thought the script was too silly. So they got John Forbes Robertson instead. And yeah.
Who are you?
The martial arts sequences, they're pretty good because the Shaw brothers, they knew what they were doing. But the vampire stuff, it's hilariously cheap. It's just a cynical cash grab that became a cult curiosity. While I can't rank it higher, I can't hate it either. Scars of Dracula is a Dracula entry that is most notable for being just more violent than its predecessors. There's this scene where Lee tortures a servant with a heated sword that just completely surprised me. But the plot in this thing is an absolute mess. There's a young couple who searches for a missing brother, and they end up at Castle Dracula because, of course they do. The bad effects are just embarrassingly bad, even by 1970 standards. Lee is committed, as always, and he brings that cold menace he does just so well. But he really isn't given much to do. There's a weird resurrection sequence involving a rubber bat that's dripping blood that's just unintentionally hilarious. This is really just for die-hard Dracula completists only. The Old Dark House was directed by William Castle, which should have been absolutely interesting. But the results, they're just weirdly flat. Tom Poston plays an American car salesman who inherits an English mansion. Full of just eccentric relatives who just keep dying.
Really amazing how much you look like your twin Casper, Jasper. I'm sorry you left us. I liked you. Well, I like you both.
It's supposed to be a comedy horror, but the jokes, they really don't land, and the horror, it isn't scary. Castle was the king of gimmicks, but there's no gimmicks here. No skeletons flying over the audience, no vibrating seats, just a mildly amusing dark comedy that feels like everyone involved was just holding back. The 1932 James Whale original, it's still the one to watch. Blood from the Mummy's Tomb has a pretty tragic production history. Director Seth Holt, he actually died during filming. He had to drop out after just one day when his wife fell ill. Andrew Keir, he replaced him. And despite all that, there's something just hypnotic about this movie. Valerie Leon plays dual roles as both an Egyptian queen and her modern reincarnation. And she's just like absolutely mesmerizing. It's based on Bram Stoker's Jewel of the Seven Stars, and it's more psychological than most Hammer mummy films. The ending, alright, it's abrupt and confusing, and that's probably because of the production troubles. This is a fascinating near miss. The Satanic Rites of Dracula is Lee's final Hammer Dracula.
My revenge has spread over centuries and has just begun!
And what a weird note to go out on. The Count, he's now a London businessman, and he's planning to destroy the world with a bioweapon. And I'm not making that up. Peter Cushing returns as Van Helsing's descendant, and just watching these two legends face off again, it's still thrilling. Even in this bizarre context, Lee famously drew real blood from Joanna Lumley during a biting scene because, you know, he just really got into it. But there are flashes of the old magic here. The image of Dracula caught in a hawthorn bush, it's actually disturbing. It's not the send-off the series deserved, but it is memorable in its own right. Dracula A.D. goes mod. A century after Van Helsing stakes him, the Count is resurrected by some groovy London kids at a black mass in a deconsecrated church. Christopher Neame, he plays Johnny Alucard. Yeah, Alucard, you know, Dracula backwards. The swinging London scenes, they're hilarious now. You know, all the bad music and the worst fashion. But here's the thing with this film. When Lee and Cushing finally face off, just everything clicks.
Look on me, Dracula. Look on me. And remember.
These two could read a phone book together and make it compelling. Stephanie Beacham is great as Van Helsing's granddaughter. The movie's goofy and dated, but really, I can't help enjoying it. The Mummy Shroud has neither Cushing nor Lee in sight, and you can feel their absence here. An archaeological expedition awakens an ancient guardian, and people, they just start dying. You know, standard mummy stuff. John Gilling directs with his usual competence, and there are some effectively eerie sequences, particularly the mummy attacks. But the characters are super thin. The villain is cartoonishly evil.
He will punish you for what you have done. And one by one, the others will follow you.
It is in the crystal.
And it is missing that star power that elevated other Hammer productions. Although Michael Ripper does show up, as always, and he's as reliable as ever. If you've exhausted the better mummy movies and need more bandaged mayhem, this'll probably do. Otherwise, it's skippable.
I look into the crystal so I see death. You are going to die very soon, but not the way you think.
Countess Dracula features Ingrid Pitt, who plays Elizabeth Bathory, and she's the real-life countess who allegedly bathed in virgin blood to stay young. But despite the title, there are no vampires in this film. This is a historical horror about vanity and obsession. Pitt, she's just fantastic in this movie. She plays both the aging countess and her youthful self with just real emotional depth. The gore is restrained, but totally effective. The problem here, though, it's the pacing. It just drags in the middle when it should be building tension. The director's direction is elegant but distant.
Ah, yes, of course.
It is worth watching for Pitt's performance and the gorgeous period detail. But really, it never quite reaches the heights it's reaching for.
Don't you want to see me young and happy again?
So that you can make love to young officers, I'd rather have you as you are than see you parading yourself like some jaded young slut from the whorehouse. At least there's dignity in age.
Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell is the final Frankenstein film for both Cushing and director Terence Fisher. It's set in this asylum where Frankenstein, he's secretly continuing his experiments with the help of a young doctor. David Prowse returns as the monster, this time in an ape-like costume that's either disturbing or ridiculous depending on your mood.
My God.
Cushing looks so tired in this film. He'd recently just lost his wife, and you can see the grief in his performance. But yet, he is still compelling. There is this nihilist streak running through this one. It just feels like Hammer is accepting its own mortality here. It's not a great film, but a meaningful one for franchise completists.
He's gonna kill her!
Fear in the Night stars Judy Keeson, who plays a young woman who's recovering from a breakdown and moves to her husband's boarding school and starts seeing things that may or may not be real.
You don't believe me, do you?
I believe you think you were attacked. What I really think happened is that you either fainted or fell, and your imagination did the rest.
Peter Cushing plays the headmaster, and there's just something deeply unsettling about him here, which, that's Peter Cushing, right? The gaslight horror tropes, they're well worn, but the director, he absolutely knows how to use them. Joan Collins shows up being just very Joan Collins.
What the hell are you doing here?
Which, is always fun.
You could get your head blown off creeping around like that.
The twist is predictable if you've seen this kind of movie before, but the execution, it's solid. It's a minor Hammer thriller that does its job without reinventing the wheel. The Evil of Frankenstein is the film where Hammer finally got to use Universal's monster makeup. So you do get something a bit closer to Karloff's flat top look. The result is, well, let's say it's mixed. Kiwi Kingston plays the creature, but without the tragedy that Lee brought to the role.
Wake up.
Get hold of him!
Peter Cushing is just rock solid as always.
Good night.
And there's this carnival hypnotist subplot. It actually goes somewhere interesting. But this still feels like a step backward from the more original direction this series had been taking. The monster looks great, but he just doesn't do very much in this film. Die-hard Frankenstein fans, you'll find things to appreciate. Casual viewers, you can probably skip ahead. In the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, we have a showman who wants to exploit an Egyptian mummy for profit. And this goes about as well as you'd expect.
You have been warned.
Terrence Morgan plays the lead, and there's a decent twist involving his character that I'm not going to spoil here. The mummy itself, it's less memorable than in the 1959 film, but the Victorian sideshow elements, they are fun. Michael Carreras directs without much flair, but the production values, they're there for this film. It looks great. Fred Clark's American promoter character, he's enjoyably sleazy in this thing. You'll love him.
It's chicken feed. You seriously expect me to pack up this whole kit and caboodle and ship it back?
But this is not essential. Although, if you are in the mood for bandaged vengeance and haven't gotten enough from the better entries, this will scratch that itch. Demons of the Mind. This one's kinda weird. A baron, he keeps his adult children locked up because he believes his family is cursed with murderous insanity. There's Freudian psychology involved here.
You were incapable of carrying out these fantasies, and now you and your children share these impulses. They are the key. Tell me about the children.
Repressed sexuality.
Oh, Elizabeth, I don't know what madness is upon us. As long as you're safe.
And some genuine disturbing imagery.
I'm not Elizabeth! I'm not! Amy. I'm not!
Not?
Robert Hardy, he's excellent as the patriarch, and Patrick McGee shows up as this wonderfully unhinged expert. It doesn't quite come together though. The ending feels rushed and kind of unsatisfying, but it's one of Hammer's most ambitious films from this period. They were clearly trying to move beyond their standard formula, which I respect the attempt, even if the execution falters.
Elizabeth, she has keys. Elizabeth, she has. You've got to get them. Then we can get far away from here. We'll be safe together.
I'll try.
Rita Tushingham plays a lonely Liverpool girl in Straight On Till Morning, and she moves to London seeking excitement and falls for this handsome man.
Hello.
think I found your dog.
Who turns out to be a serial killer. You know, some women, they just have that type of luck. Shane Bryant, he is just so unsettling as the charismatic psycho. And there's like this scene involving a dog that made me pause the movie.
Don't worry, he always comes back. Think.
This is Hammer trying to be contemporary horror. And while it's not entirely successful, it is disturbing as hell in places. The 70s London setting, it feels authentic, and Tushingham's vulnerability, it makes you root for her even when she's making terrible decisions. This is an underrated curio. You should check it out. The Abominable Snowman features Peter Cushing, and he's leading an expedition to the Himalayas, and they're searching for the Yeti. What he finds changes his perspective on humanity. This is a thoughtful sci-fi horror
This is complete madness, friend, and you know it.
that's just more interested in ideas than thrills. You barely see the creature. And that's the whole point. The real horror here, it's human greed and exploitation. Forrest Tucker, he plays the American showman who's just determined to capture a Yeti for profit, and he makes a very compelling antagonist. This was shot in black and white with expressionistic shadows, and it feels different from other Hammer productions. It's slow and meditative, which it's not going to work for everyone, but I find myself returning to it. X the Unknown was written by Jimmy Sangster after executives told him, "You go write it if you think you can do better." And this proto-Quatermass thriller, and by the way, if I said that wrong, I totally apologize. It features a radioactive blob creature who's emerging from underground. Dean Jagger plays the scientist trying to stop it, and the effects, they're primitive, but the atmosphere is thick with Cold War paranoia. You know, it's got that documentary realism Val Guest brought to Quatermass films, and just watching it, you can see Hammer figuring out their horror formula in real time. It's not quite as sophisticated as what came after it, but it is an absolutely fascinating evolutionary step.
What's he doing? Peter! Peter, don't go any closer! Peter, don't go any closer! Peter! Peter! Peter, don't be a fool! Get back! Get back!
Hands of the Ripper features Jack the Ripper's daughter, and she was traumatized by witnessing her father's crimes as a child. And she grows up to commit murders on her own, but in this trance state.
Mrs. Goldie?
Eric Porter, he plays a psychiatrist who's trying to cure her through early psychoanalysis.
Now look, damn it, what are you playing at? Is this some sort of trick?
This thing is really disturbing in places. I mean, there's this death involving a hat pin that just made me wince, like a lot. The Victorian London setting, it's just gorgeous, and the film takes its psychology seriously instead of using it as an excuse for the kills. It's one of Hammer's better late period efforts, and it mixes exploitation and intelligence beautifully. Fanatic stars Tallulah Bankhead, and it's her final film role. And this time, she plays a religious fanatic who imprisons her dead son's fiancé. This movie, released in the United States, as Die, Die, My Darling, which should tell you everything you need to know about how they marketed it.
This gun is dangerous, Patricia.
Bankhead is just absolutely unhinged in this thing. And this was a fantastic last act for her. Stephanie Powers, she plays the victim, and watching her just slowly realize she's in real danger, it's incredibly effective. This is from Hammer's psychological thriller cycle, and while it's not as polished as some of the others, Bankhead's performance alone makes it worth watching. It's camp, it's creepy, in both equal measure.
I'll pay you to let me out of here.
In what way, love?
Don't!
You're not bad looking, are you? It's not bad at all.
Bette Davis in The Nanny as a nanny who may or may not be dangerous to the 10-year-old boy that's in her care. The kid, he just got out of a psychiatric facility after allegedly killing his sister, and nobody believes him when he says the nanny's the real threat.
Nanny understands. She's on your side.
No, you're not.
This is psychological horror at its finest. I mean, you're never quite sure who to trust until the devastating reveal. Davis brings all her old Hollywood gravitas to the role.
If you don't remove yourself from this fire escape immediately, I shall be forced to inform your employers, and they will not be pleased.
And William Dix, he's just so creepy as the boy.
Help me! Please, someone help!
Seth Holt, his direction is just masterfully restrained in this movie. It's one of Hammer's best non-gothic horrors, and Davis deserved just more recognition for it.
Good morning, Master Jerry. I see you found your appetite again.
I never lost it. I'm just not going to eat anything you make.
I cooked your father's breakfast.
Yes, but you wouldn't poison him.
When These Are the Damned was filmed for Hammer, the studio clearly didn't know what they had with this film, and it was shelved for like 2 years after production. But this movie is just remarkable. Basically, it's a science fiction film about 9 radioactive children who were all aged 11, and they're being raised in a secret bunker cave to survive a nuclear war.
Where are we?
Hush! No one's to speak.
These kids, they're all healthy, but they're just cold to the touch, like they're no longer alive.
Simon, our hands as cold as ice. It doesn't get warm when I touch him.
And these kids are also educated and monitored by surveillance cameras in this dystopian environment.
If you do not help me, I will be forced to take your hideout away from you.
The ending to this movie is just so bleak in a way mainstream 60s films, they rarely were. Hammer marketed this with busty shots of an actress that had just nothing to do with the plot, and it totally flopped. Rediscovered now, this is one of the most fascinating films you can watch.
The children themselves are radioactive.
The children? What in heaven's name are you doing?
You can't be expected to understand.
I'm taking them out of here. You can't do that.
Four-sided triangle is early Fisher and early Hammer, and you can just see the seeds of greatness growing in this film. It's about two scientists who both love the same woman. So one of them decides to duplicate her. It's basically a Frankenstein story about romantic obsession. And this was shot on a shoestring budget with ideas way above its station.
But what are they?
We call it a reproducer. You might also call it a duplicator.
How does it work? What does it do?
Barbara Payton, she plays both women, and there's just something just tragic about the whole endeavor. The science fiction elements, they're charmingly dated today, but the emotional core, it still holds up. Not many people talk about this one, but this is where Fisher started developing his themes about obsession and playing God. In Spaceways, we have another scientist, but this one's accused of murdering his wife and her lover, and then hiding their bodies in a satellite.
And does your little man say why I went to all this trouble?
Well, he's got a theory. A very nasty theory. Murder.
To prove his innocence, he has to go to space and check. Yeah, seriously. It's more thriller than science fiction, with Howard Duff playing the wrongly accused protagonist. The space sequences, they're minimal, but the mystery, it keeps you guessing.
Philip, I want you. I want you so much. You've got to take me away from this concentration camp.
Soon, darling, soon.
How soon?
It won't be long, I promise you.
Eva Bartok provides the romantic interest in the film. And this is a pre-horror Hammer, but again, Fisher's craftsmanship, it's already evident in this film. It's not essential, but it is absolutely interesting for seeing where the studio and director started before they found their calling.
But he was supposed to stand by to check the animal reaction in the discarded sections.
I've looked everywhere for him, sir. I even picked up a couple of sergeants on the way. We searched every building and every room. And he hasn't passed through either of the gates. There's not a sign of him. Nor of Mrs. Mitchell.
Maniac is about an American painter in south of France who gets involved with a woman whose husband, he's in an asylum for murder.
Pretty bloody crime.
Mm-hmm. It was so terrible that they found Georges insane.
Was he insane?
Well, at the moment he must have been. But it was an insanity of rage.
And then, when he meets her teenage daughter, it kind of complicates things even further. The father, he's in jail because he killed a man with a blowtorch who raped his daughter. This psychological thriller has more twists than you'd expect. Kerwin Matthews, he's just solid as the lead, and Nadia Gray, she brings this genuine danger to her femme fatale role. This is part of Hammer's early 60s thriller cycle, and it borrowed heavily from Hitchcock. But this one, it's got its own nasty streak. The final reveal, it actually surprised me, and I think it'll surprise you too.
They will throw their hands in the air and they will say, "He has done it again. The mad Bernard has done it again, but this time he was too smart. The equipment blew up in his face. He's dead. No longer do we need to look for him."
Oliver Reed plays Simon Ashby. He's a cruel, alcoholic heir.
And if you'll be so good, tomorrow you'll get me another dozen bottles of brandy. Without settling your accounts, all right? Don't argue with me, man! Get it! Get it!
Trying to have his emotionally fragile sister Eleanor committed so he can inherit the family fortune alone. Their older brother Tony, he supposedly committed suicide years ago by jumping into the sea when he was 15 years old, but his body was never found. Then, a man claiming to be Tony suddenly appears.
William?
Yes, miss?
Who was he?
It was Mr. Tony.
Is he really the long-lost brother, or just an imposter? Jeanette Scott is just excellent as Eleanor, and she's caught between desperate hope and creeping doubt, and her sanity, it's hanging by a thread. The script piles on gothic atmosphere, like a masked figure lurking in the shadows. Sabotage car brakes. And eventually, a mummified corpse hiding behind a wall. Reed is as absolutely magnetic as Simon. He's sweaty and unhinged, but guilt-ridden over a terrible secret that's driven him to madness. The twists keep coming right through to the fiery climax. Nightmare, which is also known as Here's the Knife, Dear, Now Use It. It's about a schoolgirl's mother who murdered her father and then went mad. And now she's having nightmares suggesting the same fate. It awaits her.
Help me, Janet!
Both.
Jenny Linden, she plays the terrified young woman, and the nightmare sequences, they're just unsettling. All Dutch angles and expressionist shadows. The first half, it's just a masterclass in building dread. And the second half pivots into something so unexpected, but I'm not going to spoil it here. It's another of Hammer's Hitchcock-influenced psychological thrillers, and it's one of their best. Francis was doing some of his finest work during this period.
Grace, I thought everybody was out. Please, who are you? Oh, please leave me alone. What do you want? Oh, please. Go. No, don't come near me, please.
Okay, now we're getting into the second half of the films, and these are the ones most people think about when they think of Hammer horror. Our next film, Vampire Circus. It's about a circus that arrives at a quarantine village, and the performers, they're all vampires.
May I present your Burgermeister and his beautiful family.
And they're seeking revenge on the descendants of those who killed their master.
His heart, it must
me his heart!
This movie is just wildly imaginative. Like there's a shape-shifting panther and these creepy twin performers. The circus setting gives it this visual flair that sets it apart from other vampire films. Adrienne Corr is magnificent as the vampire queen. Robert Young's direction is just surprisingly stylish for what was essentially a B picture. The budget, it shows sometimes, but the ambition does not. It's one of the late-era Hammers that's actually a delight.
Should be the first to see the light. No, sir, don't you see? For you, sir, everything is free.
The Witches is Joan Fontaine's final film role, and she plays a schoolteacher who recovers from a nervous breakdown in this peaceful English village, which turns out to be less peaceful than advertised.
Look at that.
I'll give it back to you later, Linda.
The horror in this movie, it builds slowly, and probably too slowly for a lot of people. But there's this creeping unease that pays off in the wild third act. Fontaine, she brings movie star presence to material that could have been forgettable in lesser hands. The witchcraft elements are handled more seriously than you'd expect.
Witchcraft? Somebody having a little dabble? Yes, I would think so. Or did you think I was going to say, no, it can't happen here?
This is a transitional film for Hammer. They're moving from the period Gothic work towards more of a contemporary setting. It's a slow burn, but it's completely worth the patience.
It's a sex thing deep down, of course. Mostly women go in for it. Older women.
Like Mrs. Rigg, for instance.
Yes, they relish the idea of a secret power, especially when their normal powers are failing.
The Shadow of the Cat is about the murder of a wealthy woman for her inheritance by her husband Walter and 2 servants. But her cat, Tabitha, it witnessed the crime. And seems to be picking them off one by one. Is the cat supernatural? Is it intelligent? Or are the killers just paranoid? Andre Morel leads the cast of conspirators, and watching them unravel is just so deeply satisfying. John Gilling shoots the cat's eye sequences with some real creativity in this film. It's essentially an Edgar Allan Poe story, and the atmosphere is thick with guilt and dread. Although the name Hammer doesn't appear in the credits, the film was indeed a Hammer production. It was released without their logo due to a dispute. Frankenstein created woman, it really goes places. Baron Frankenstein develops a theory about souls persisting after death and tests it by transferring a dead man's soul into the body of his girlfriend. Susan Denberg plays the transformed woman who begins hunting down those who wronged her lover. It's more metaphysical than the typical Frankenstein story, like asking questions about identity and justice. Hammer used promotional stills of Cushing and Denberg that never appeared in the actual film. It was pure marketing deception. The movie itself is incredibly thoughtful, one of the most underrated Frankenstein entries.
Hans.
Kill him. Kill him. Kill him, Christina.
The Kiss of the Vampire doesn't have Cushing or Lee, but it does have plenty of atmosphere. A honeymooning couple, they break down near a castle, which happens to be inhabited by a vampire cult. The cult leader, it isn't Dracula, but he does have Dracula's charisma.
I like only to be surrounded by beautiful things. And as I am fortunate enough to have the means to satisfy my wish.
And the masked ball sequence is incredibly creepy. The ending involves bats summoned by some occult ritual, and while the effects are dated, the imagery is incredibly striking. This is the kind of Hammer film that proves you don't need the stars to make something memorable. It's just pure gothic atmosphere from start to finish. In Quatermass 2, Professor Quatermass investigates mysterious meteorites that are falling only in a remote area called Winterden Flats. What he discovers is incredibly chilling. It's a massive industrial complex that looks exactly like his own plans for a lunar colony.
By this to a committee of Whitehall bureaucrats? Steel domes where men can live in artificial atmosphere, beings alive in a totally dead world?
But now, it's being used as a center of an alien infiltration that's reaching the highest levels of British government. People who are touched by the meteorites, they develop a V-shaped mark and fall under alien control. Including police commissioners and politicians. The film functions as political paranoia, a specific attack on government secrecy and institutional corruption that feels remarkably relevant today. It was a box office success, but got overshadowed by The Curse of Frankenstein releasing the same year.
Quatermass! I'm here. Come see you. Quatermass. It burns. This is the food. And it burns. You like it? No, don't touch me!
The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll has an interesting twist to it. Dr. Jekyll is the homely, bearded one, and Mr. Hyde, he's the smooth and handsome one. Paul Massey plays both roles brilliantly.
Who am I?
And Christopher Lee, he shows up as a sleazy friend.
I don't deserve you, Kitty.
You don't. But I deserve you. I deserve nothing better than you.
This movie inverts your expectations, because Hyde, he's charming and seductive.
Indeed, I will. I have business with Henry and friendship, I hope, with you.
Which makes him way more dangerous. The transformation sequences, they rely on lighting and performance rather than makeup. Which, it's a bold choice that mostly works. Dawn Addams, she is just excellent as Jekyll's neglected wife. Unfortunately though, the movie flopped on release, but over time it's been reassessed as one of Fisher's smarter films. The psychology is just way more interesting in this film than most Jekyll adaptations.
For God's sake, man, don't kill him!
You ill, old boy?
Let me alone, Jekyll. Let me alone.
Jekyll.
The idea for Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, it started as a lunchtime joke, but the movie, it takes it surprisingly seriously. This time Jekyll's formula, it turns him into a woman. Played by Martine Beswick, who looks eerily similar to Ralph Bates. The gender politics are obviously dated, but there's something subversive about watching a man grapple with his feminine self becoming the dominant personality.
We'll see who wins.
We'll see.
Bates and Beswick are both excellent in this film. It's a lurid exploitation, but with ideas, which is Hammer at its best.
It's Hyde, isn't it? Mrs. Hyde?
Is it?
The last time we met, I didn't get an opportunity to, introduce myself.
The Gorgon brings Cushing and Lee together again, and once again Lee gets to be the hero, who's Professor Meister, and he's a confident academic who strides in to solve the mystery. Cushing plays a more ambiguous character than usual.
Doctor, you'll perform an autopsy.
On a body that's turned to stone?
Now the Gorgon herself, Megaera, possesses a local woman and turns villagers to stone.
For God's sake, don't come near me. Your face. Listen carefully. I haven't much time, Hans.
The monster design, it's kind of controversial. The snake hair effects, they're undeniably poor in this film. But the atmosphere, it's just pure gothic romance. Barbara Shelley is heartbreaking as the cursed woman. It's not their best collaboration, but watching these two legends on screen together is just always magic. Captain Kronos, the vampire hunter, was way ahead of its time, and unfortunately, it was ignored at the box office. Horst Jansen plays a swashbuckling vampire hunter with a hunchback assistant and a samurai sword. And Caroline Munro,
And what crime have you committed?
I danced on a Sunday.
she plays Carla. She's the love interest, and I have to tell you, I've had a crush on her for like 30 years after I first saw this.
No, I'm staying. If you'll have me.
Oh. I'll have you.
This is Hammer trying to create an action horror franchise, and honestly, this movie rules. The vampires here, they drain youth instead of blood. Which is just an awesome and fresh twist to the storyline. There's sword fighting, gallows humor, and a surprising amount of wit in Brian Clemens' script. It flopped because audiences, they just didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't gothic enough for traditionalists, or gory enough for exploitation fans. But if you watch this thing now, you can see what they were going for. This movie just totally deserved a sequel.
Well, if he's not a king, why does he leave us to do all the work?
He has to conserve his strength. We've ridden far, and tomorrow we will be where we must be. And that's when his work will begin again.
Rasputin the Mad Monk stars Christopher Lee as Rasputin, and it's one of those performances where you just can't look away from it. He is just absolutely mesmerizing, charismatic, and utterly terrifying in this movie. He was thrown out of a monastery for being too wild.
You will apologize for laughing at me.
Now look here!
And then he schemes his way into the Russian court.
I am not a peasant woman.
No. No, you're not, are you? What are you, then? What are you?
I am lady in waiting to the Tsarina.
This movie isn't historically accurate. Hammer never really cared about accuracy, but it is wildly entertaining. This was shot back to back with Dracula, Prince of Darkness, using the same sets, which explains why he looks suspiciously like Castle Dracula. Barbara Shelley, she returns from that film as well. Lee's performance, though, it just carries everything. You can see he clearly relished playing someone just so uninhibitably evil.
Look deep into my eyes. Think of nothing else. Everything else is darkness.
The Phantom of the Opera script was originally written for Cary Grant, who dropped out. Herbert Lom, he inherited the role and brings a genuine sympathy to the Phantom. Now this version, it makes him more victim than monster.
Young woman, you must come with me.
He's a composer whose work was stolen and is now haunting the opera house. It's really more romantic than horrific, which unfortunately disappointed audiences expecting typical Hammer gore. But there's a beauty in Fisher's direction and Lom's performance. And the sewer layer sequences, they're just atmospheric as hell. Michael Gough is delightfully hateable as the villain.
He's got his girlfriend with him. Looking for a nice dark corner to do a bit of courting, was you?
It's not the Phantom most people wanted, but it has its own melancholy charm and completely worth the watch.
I am going to teach you to sing, Christine. I am going to give you a new voice. A voice so wonderful that theaters all over the world will be...
The Reptile was shot back-to-back with Plague of Zombies on the same Cornish village sets. But this one, it's about a woman who was transformed into a snake creature by a Malayan cult. Jacqueline Pearce is phenomenal as the doomed Anna. She's just beautiful and tragic at the same time. The snake makeup is ambitious, even if it doesn't entirely work. So what makes this film special, though? It's the atmosphere, that isolated village, the cold rejection from the locals, and the Gothic mansion hiding terrible secrets. John Gilling directs both films with equal care, proving Hammer's B features, they could match their prestige films. In Taste of Fear, Susan Strasberg plays a wheelchair-bound woman who returns to her father's French Riviera villa and keeps seeing his corpse around the estate. Is she crazy? Is someone gaslighting her? Well, Christopher Lee shows up as the family doctor. And he has that silky voice that could just mean anything.
You're all right now.
Relax, young lady. There's nothing to get excited about.
This is Hammer doing Hitchcock, Diabolique, and doing it brilliantly. The black and white cinematography is just gorgeous, and the tension, it never lets up. The twists, they just keep coming. It's one of the best psychological thrillers of the 60s, and just criminally underseen. If you haven't watched this one, you really need to fix that.
Okay?
Yes.
Ingrid Pitt arrived in The Vampire Lovers, and Hammer, they found their new horror queen. As Carmilla, she's seductive.
How beautiful you are. Now you're just teasing me, like Carl always does.
Dangerous, and oddly sympathetic. This was based on Chrétien Le Fanu's novella, and this is the most faithful Carmilla adaptation, and the most explicit. The lesbian content, it isn't subtext. It's right there all over the screen. Peter Cushing shows up to stake some vampires.
I will do it.
Because, of course he does. Kate O'Mara and Madeline Smith, they round out the cast of victims. The censors warned Hammer about depicting lesbianism on film, and Hammer replied, it was in the source material, and they won. This movie was groundbreaking, gorgeous, and is just absolutely magnetic. Twins of Evil is easily the best of the Karnstein trilogy.
Oh, God, have mercy on this poor, unfortunate creature. She is a child of the devil.
Peter Cushing plays a puritanical witch hunter who's as dangerous as the vampires he hunts. The Collinson twins, they play Maria and Frida, and they're identical sisters. One is virtuous, while the other is drawn to darkness. Damian Thomas, he's Count Karnstein. He just revels in Satanism.
I am weary of this world and its pathetic pleasures. Teach me to reach beyond the flesh. Reveal yourself to me that I may bow down before you and be your servant.
The genius is making Cushing's character not simply heroic, because his fanaticism
and to purify their spirits, so that they may find mercy at the seat of the Lord by burning them!
It leads to innocent people's deaths. This movie is morally complex in a way Hammer films rarely were. The period production design is lavish, and the atmosphere is intoxicating. And the climax is incredibly exciting. Mary and Madeline Cullison, they were Playboy playmates, which tells you about Hammer's casting priorities. But don't let that fool you. They were actually quite good in this movie.
You are very beautiful. For you, all pleasure should be supreme. And one supreme pleasure is to take a human life.
The Curse of the Werewolf is Hammer's only werewolf film. And what a strange beast it is. In his first starring role, Oliver Reed plays Leon, who was cursed from birth due to a traumatic conception. The first half of this movie is all setup. And I mean like all setup. But it does establish a tragic inevitability that makes the horror hit that much harder.
Leo?
Reed is young and magnetic, and you really feel for him as the curse takes hold. The transformation scenes, they're impressive for the era. You know, some people, though, they find the pacing ponderous, but I appreciate how seriously it takes its own mythology. There's a real tragedy here, not just monster mayhem.
What is it? What happened?
What you said?
Where is he?
I don't know, senor.
There he is, up on the roof!
Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed is a very dark movie. Cushing's Baron is at his most ruthless in this thing. He's blackmailing a young couple.
We've done everything you asked. Please leave my room.
Performing brain transplants.
Hold his head. Rigid. Lower.
And there's even a rape scene that James Carreras forced into the film over everyone's objections. Both Cushing and Fisher hated it. But despite the controversy, there's a tragic monster here. A man whose brain is transplanted into a new body.
I can transplant his brain. If I don't, it'll die through lack of oxygen. I must therefore transfer it to a healthy body to keep it alive. When the recipient is fully recovered, I shall operate again to cure the insanity.
Played by Freddie Jones, giving a heartbreaking performance. His rejection by his own wife is just devastating. This is Hammer horror at its bleakest, and while I can't defend all of it, the ambition was undeniable. The Man Who Could Cheat Death stars Anton Diffring, who plays a sculptor who's been 104 years old for quite a while.
It comes with the life of 104.
This is essentially the same immortality through murder premise as several other films, but Fisher and Diffring, they make it very compelling. Christopher Lee, he appears as a doctor who refuses to help. And the Technicolor in this movie is absolutely gorgeous. The decadence, it feels real. And there's this like melancholy to Diffring's character. He's not just evil, he's desperate.
Look. Look. Please.
Hazel Court, she brings both sensuality and intelligence to the love interest role. This film was overlooked because it lacks the iconic monsters, but it's sophisticated gothic horror that you absolutely need to see.
Georges? I'm sorry.
Too late. Too late.
Plague of the Zombies is Hammer's only zombie film, and it may have influenced Romero. Andre Morel plays a doctor investigating mysterious death in a Cornish village and discovers the local squire is using voodoo to create undead labor for his tin mines. The dream sequences where corpses claw their way out of the graves is just legendary. It's just disturbing imagery that's going to stay with you. The zombies here are the old school Haitian type, slaves to a master's will, which gives the film an uncomfortable colonial subtext that's actually addressed. This was shot as a B feature alongside Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and it's arguably better than the main attraction. Peter Cushing in The Hound of the Baskervilles is absolutely Sherlock Holmes. He's precise, arrogant, brilliant, and just utterly compelling in every deduction.
Your name was Selden before you married, wasn't it? And the convict who escaped was your brother?
How did you know?
Your brother told me.
Andre Morel plays Watson, but not as the bumbling fool of lesser adaptations, but as a competent professional who happens to stand next to a genius. It's easily the best Watson until Martin Freeman decades later.
A very good chance. I've been sitting here for the last 10 minutes waiting for you.
Christopher Lee appears as Sir Henry Baskerville, and he's the potential victim of an ancient family curse. And it's a rare opportunity to see him play a sympathetic protagonist.
Why did you run away? I've done nothing to frighten you.
My father, he would have seen us.
Well, what of it?
The foggy moors of Dartmoor, they're atmospherically perfect in this film. And Fisher brings real supernatural menace to the horror sequences, even though we know Holmes will ultimately find a rational explanation.
They use this mask to make it look more terrifying. It was starved for weeks, kept down the mind till the time was ripe, then given the scent.
This was the first color Baskerville adaptation ever filmed, and still one of the very best versions of this often told story. Cushing would return to Holmes multiple times throughout his career because he was just simply perfect for it. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave begins with a Monsignor who exorcises Castle Dracula.
Qui Dede supernis celorum in inferiora.
But accidentally revives the Count with the blood of a traumatized priest. Dracula then follows him home to prey on his niece.
There is a girl.
Girl.
The niece of the Monsignor.
Maria?
Bring her to me.
What do you want her for? You've got me.
Veronica Carlson is just luminous as Maria, and her romance with the atheist protagonist adds an interesting wrinkle. Can a non-believer stake a vampire?
You must pray. I can't. You must, or he won't die. You pray, you're a priest.
Freddie Francis shoots it with amber filters whenever Dracula appears, creating this visual aura of evil that's absolutely striking. The ending, where Dracula is impaled on a golden cross, is so iconic. It's not quite the best Dracula film, but it's pure gothic atmosphere from start to finish.
Et meos inducas tentatione, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
In Taste the Blood of Dracula, 3 Victorian gentlemen seek occult thrills.
If one thought that one's experience might be extended.
It would be extended to infinity.
But accidentally resurrect Dracula by killing his disciple. The Count, he then uses their children to exact revenge. Christopher Lee, he didn't actually want to return to this film, but James Carreras allegedly guilt-tripped him by saying the crew would lose their jobs if he didn't. But of course his performance, it's still commanding. The real stars though, they're the corrupt fathers, played by Jeffrey Keane, John Carson, and Peter Salis. Watching Dracula systematically destroy hypocritical patriarchs through their own offspring has a subversive pleasure to it. The class commentary is way sharper than usual for Hammer films.
Free, Alice, free to choose good or evil. You're not one of them yet. You're free to choose.
I must do as he says. He's my master.
He's not. He is not.
Christopher Lee considers this film one of his favorites, and he's actually the hero for once.
Do you believe in evil?
As an idea.
Do you believe in the power of darkness?
As a superstition.
Now there you are wrong. The power of darkness is more than just a superstition.
The Duke battles a satanic cult led by Charles Gray at his oily best. This was based on Dennis Wheatley's novel, and it takes black magic seriously as a threat.
Don't look at the eyes, Rex.
Lee campaigned for years to get this made, and his enthusiasm shows in his performance.
The goat of Mentis. The devil himself.
The special effects are, as Lee admitted himself, a bit cheap, like the demon that looks like a rubber costume, but the atmosphere is thick and genuine with menace. The scene in the magic circle, fighting off supernatural attacks through the night, is a classic set piece. The Revenge of Frankenstein is the first Frankenstein sequel, and some would argue it's better than the original. Baron Frankenstein escapes execution. He changes his name and sets up a hospital where he secretly continues his experiments.
Look at this. Interesting, isn't it? Quite a work of art. What do you think, gentlemen?
Why, it's...
Very picturesque. We didn't come here to... You must have it off. One off. This arm.
Cushing brings real complexity to the role. The Baron believes he's helping humanity while doing monstrous things.
That's the arm of the pickpocket. It is indeed. You need sensitive fingers to be a member of that profession. It'll be very useful to me.
Michael Gwynn is sympathetic as the creature this time, a man whose brain was transplanted to cure his deformities. There's a sequence where they used a real sheep's brain, but it rotted and caused the technicians to faint. Jibby Sangster's script explicitly included cannibalism in this film, and this is Hammer pushing boundaries.
That Frankenstein was condemned to death.
Yes.
Do you know what for?
Well, surely everyone knows. The story's become a legend. He created a man who became a monster.
It should have been perfect.
The Mummy gives us Christopher Lee in bandages.
Go now.
And Peter Cushing as an archaeologist who awakens him. Lee actually suggested the scene where a harpoon gets driven through the mummy's body. And his eyes in that moment, the desperation, confusion, and pain, they're just remarkable acting through pounds of makeup.
Return, O Ka the double, O Ba the soul, pulse strong, O Ab the heart, make supple the limbs and strong the sinews.
The Mummy is both terrifying and tragic in this film. Controlled by a man seeking revenge for a desecrated tomb. Yvonne Furneaux plays the woman who resembles the mummy's ancient love, adding romance to the horror. The swamp sequences, they're just gorgeously shot. This is not reinventing the wheel, but it's the platonic ideal of a mummy movie.
Caris, put me down.
Let's get round the other side. Tell the men to be ready.
Stand by, men. Be ready.
Put me down. Caris, put me down.
Christopher Lee, in Dracula, Prince of Darkness, actually has no dialogue in this film. He allegedly found the scripted lines so terrible, he just refused to say them. And you know what? It doesn't even matter. His physical presence alone is terrifying enough. The resurrection scene, where a servant slits a victim's throat over Dracula's ashes, it's one of Hammer's most visceral sequences ever. Barbara Shelley, she transforms from a repressed Victorian wife
What's the matter?
You called me.
No, go to sleep.
You said Helen.
I did not.
To a seductive vampire, and her performance is nothing less than remarkable.
You don't need charm.
Andrew Keir, he plays a monk who takes the Van Helsing role. Lee would keep playing Dracula, but never again with this much intensity.
Isn't your master joining us for dinner?
No, sir. I'm afraid not.
Is he indisposed?
He's dead.
Quatermass and the Pit is about a buried spacecraft that is discovered during a London underground excavation. What follows is one of the most intelligent science fiction films ever made. Andrew Keir takes over as Quatermass and makes the role his own.
Professor Quatermass, your rocket group?
Yes, mine. I brought the whole thing into being.
The premise: the Martians genetically modified ancient humans, and their influence explains human violence and mythology. It's really heady stuff just for any era.
It's all right. They're dead. They've been dead for a long time. What are they? Whatever they are, they're decomposing fast.
James Donald is excellent as a skeptical military man. The effects, they may show their age, but the ideas don't. This influenced everything from Doctor Who to Nigel Keel's later work. It's arguably Hammer's smartest film, not just in science fiction. The Brides of Dracula, it doesn't feature Christopher Lee as Dracula, because he's already moved on. But Peter Cushing's Van Helsing, he returns, and that's enough. David Peel plays Baron Munster. A sexually ambiguous vampire who feeds on men, women, and even his own mother.
You needn't be afraid, she's dead.
What have you done?
She's dead and he's free.
The scene where Van Helsing, he cauterizes his own vampire bite with a red-hot iron, it is just badass beyond words. Martita Hunt is magnificent as the Baron's mother, keeping her son chained in the castle. This is arguably a better film than the original Dracula. That's hearsay, I know, because it develops Van Helsing into a full action hero. The windmill climax is just brilliantly staged. You're gonna love this film.
My darling Marianne, you haven't forgotten your little Gina. Put your arms around me, please. I want to kiss you, Marianne. Please be kind to me.
They called Dracula the Horror of Dracula in the States, and this movie changed everything.
I am Dracula, and I welcome you to my house.
Christopher Lee, he brought sex appeal to vampirism. He's not the corpse-like creature of Lugosi, but a predator radiating dangerous charisma. And Peter Cushing's Van Helsing, he's athletic, intelligent, and just utterly committed to the role. And that ending, Van Helsing sprinting across a table, it made the audiences gasp. And the Technicolor blood, it was revolutionary for the time. Universal's president said that this film, it saved his studio from bankruptcy. It created modern vampire cinema. This film is nearly perfect. The Curse of Frankenstein is where it all started. It's the film that made Hammer. Peter Cushing, he plays Baron Frankenstein, not as a misguided idealist, but as a charming sociopath.
Paul, we've done it.
He murders for parts.
Forget the whole. Now we must take the part. Limbs, organs, and then we must build.
And he betrays everyone who trusts him, never once doubting himself.
I'm delighted. That means your experiment will not succeed.
You're going to help me, Paul. Whatever you say.
This movie is so chilling. Christopher Lee's monster had to look nothing like Karloff's because of Universal's copyright. So Phil Leakey, he created something new. A patchwork creature that looks like a road accident. Lee played it as childlike and confused, not malevolent. The Technicolor gore was revolutionary, and critics called it disgusting. But audiences, they couldn't get enough. This single film launched 2 decades of gothic horror and made Cushing and Lee legends. Everything Hammer became started here, and it has to be number 1.
But you won't win, Paul. And shall I tell you why you won't win? Because I shall carry on. If I can't cure it by brain surgery, then I'll get another brain. And another. And another.
No, Victor. No, you will not.
And that, Vault Dwellers, is 62 Hammer horror films ranked, updated, and expanded thanks to everyone who watched the 3-part series and let me know exactly where I got it wrong. You argued for your favorites, and some of you made cases so compelling, I adjusted the rankings. This is what happens when a community of horror fans comes together. These movies, they shaped how an entire generation saw Gothic horror. The atmosphere, the performances, and the way they made you feel like something ancient and evil was always lurking off-screen. Cushing and Lee became icons. If you're new to Hammer, start with the top 10 and work your way through it. If you're a longtime fan, I hope this list did justice to the films you love, and maybe it introduced you to a few you overlooked. Thanks for watching, for commenting, even for arguing with me, and for keeping Hammer's legacy alive. The full ranked list, it's in the description. And as always, keep it weird, folks.
They were like chalk and cheese,
very different styles of acting, different ways of acting, and obviously totally different characters, but it just gelled, you know, the whole thing with them gelled, and they had huge respect for each other.
We had a wonderful day together, but as we said goodbye, I had a premonition. I knew it would be the last time I would see him. And it was.